Call the meeting of the Morrow County Commission to order. We'll start with the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next up, we'll have first thing on the agenda is our public comment. And first we'll take comment from the audience, and then we will see if anybody on Zoom wants to. If somebody wants to make public comment, then I'll explain the rules, otherwise I won't. Is there anybody? Okay. All right, public comment is for 3 minutes. You get 3 minutes. It's not a give and take with the commission. It's just a time for you to talk to the commission. And what we ask is to just keep it civil. Okay. I'm sorry. And state your name and if you're affiliated with a group or something, where you're from.
Am I gonna go first or are you gonna do online?
In person.
In person, okay. How you doing? My name is Jonathan Tallman. I live in Boardman, Oregon. Thank you for being here. I'd like to insert this into the record. Yesterday, I got a call from Eric Himes that said he talked to Matt Jensen about my property that's out on 450 Laurel Lane and county access. I would like to show that I do, for the record, have county access that has been granted for my property, already approved, and that goes into the future. I would also like to show that I've emailed Tamara about UGB issues that are happening with the county and how they've communicated with the city with the UGB and the TSP. Now, it's very important because this is all interrelated. I've emailed Tamara and it sounds like there's a backdoor deal that's going on. I would like communication. I would like to sit down and have conversations instead of having my property limited again by issues that are happening. I'm happily ready and able to work with everybody involved. There's an email that's attached to the record that shows that they're using the UGB as a bargaining chip. And that causes me great concern with those type of things because this affects the whole county. This is the provision to show that it is a city issue with my having commercial vehicles on my property. It is not a county issue. And for this to come up at the right time after 12 years or 14 years dealing with this, let's work together. I'm just begging you, please, let's work together and find a way. I met with Jared, who is the Water Consortium guy, had a great conversation, threw out some solutions to him. And you know what? He said this was a great idea. He said he was going to meet with you, Matt. I would welcome a conversation. Now, I'm going to tell you, I do want it recorded, all conversations, because unless I see it in writing, I just don't believe it anymore. But it is very important that we have conversations, no matter how uncomfortable that they be, because we are stifling growth in this area because we refuse to have uncomfortable conversations. I would gladly meet up with anybody here, okay? But this really causes me concern because my right to the freedom of speech and to speak publicly is being subdued. And we need to get back to what makes America great. And again, I wish I could just explain why we can't just have a conversation, put things in writing and move on with our life. It's a recurring issue and it's going to affect, I will be back later this afternoon, but we need to sit down. Please attach this all to the record and email me and anything concerning that communication between Matt Jensen and Eric Himes. I would like that added to the record as well too. Thank you very much. You guys have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Chair, if I could just address, Jonathan, don't leave yet.
Okay.
I have no problem reaching out to Jonathan Tallman, particularly about this access issue that has come up. It's not related things, but I'll give you a call after this meeting.
Okay.
We'll set up a time.
Okay. Can you email me? And because the reason why is because when people tell me something.
Sure, I'll email you.
Okay. And again, and I don't mean to be rude with that. It's just the way things have happened.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'll be in touch.
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments from in the room? Any other comments on Zoom? Raise your hand. Who do we got there?
Phil Newton.
Phil? Do you hear me?
Sorry about that. Yes, sorry.
Go ahead, just state where you're from and if you're affiliated with the group. And you probably heard the rules. You have 3 minutes.
Yes, I won't come close to using them. I'm Phil Newton with Oregon Teamsters 223. We're just getting ready to start contract negotiations for the Sheriff's Association folks in association with them. And Austin DePaulo, who's our Secretary Treasurer, and I will be coming to Oregon April 2nd and 3rd. We've met some of you, but looking forward to meeting everyone and getting started with some productive contract negotiations.
Okay? That, you good?
Yep, thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Phil. Anybody else on Zoom, raise your hand. Anybody, Matt, or?
Don't.
Nope, okay. All right, that concludes our public comment. We'll move on to consideration and adoption of agenda. Do I hear a motion to do that?
Any changes, Matt? Not that I'm aware of. I'll move for adoption of the agenda as presented.
I second.
Moved and second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Okay, next we'll move on to our department reports. Our next, first up is accounts payable monthly report. Kevin, he just gives us usually a written report. Did you have anything you wanted to add on that, Kevin? Or you good with
Not
it?
unless there's any questions.
Next up, our planning department monthly report, Tamara.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have brought with me our new principal planner, George Kress. So I think you've each met him, but if not, this is George. Do you want to say a few?
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. Beautiful day. I'm a longtime resident of Eastern Oregon and Eastern Washington, so I'm familiar with what the issues are here and worked both in land use, the port, Columbia River for a number of years, as well as some energy projects. So this is an exciting time here in this county, and I really like the staff, and they have a lot of
I paid him to say that.
talent here, and it's a pleasure to be here.
It's great to have you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We think so too. Thanks very much. So hang out if you will. I'll just summarize a couple highlights from the March monthly update. You've met George. We have had multiple land use hearings, several code updates, and many of those have been continued, as you know. I think a few months ago I said, oh, given the governor's executive order 2525 and 2529, we may very well see a big rush of energy related permitting projects. That's turning out to be the truth. That in combination with some legislation, multiple bills, as you probably know, in the legislature, in particular House Bill 4031 was passed, and that allows certain projects to apply at the local level that would otherwise be permitted by the state EPSEC. So this is a time where we get to really test what we've been saying, me in particular. I think we can permit those large projects. So yep, the rubber's gonna hit the road, and it looks like one of those projects, a large 7,400 acre project, will come to us. That has not formally happened, where that company is submitted an application with us. Their project is still under review with EPSEC at the state level. So later in your agenda, we have the first in the county's role of the EPSEC review process. We're continuing with that until that formal change has taken place. So Matt's been helpful with that, checking in with me to make sure we're staffed up for it. And it's probably a little premature to say, but we think we've made some arrangements so that it will hopefully be a little less burdensome on us when that takes place. We have a lot of activity around substations and transmission lines, and our very own Stephen Resix is working on a map. He's created a map for internal use showing substations all of which have been permitted by us, so they're all public record. We just have so many. It's hard to keep track which substation is for which project, and that becomes relevant when we're working on a review of a specific project. For the first time ever, we had applications for a substation that was not assigned to a project. So it gave a little scratch at the head in figuring out legally and procedurally how to move forward with those. One is still pending a final action by the Planning Commission later this month. And we also have a 31-mile transmission line that's not connected to any project. It's just for extra capacity for Pacific Core. I don't expect to have that anytime soon because they do not have landowner consent. So they've gone to the Public Utility Commission. I'm sharing that much detail with you. It could end up in front of you, but you don't know the landowners or where it is. It's just a lot of development around energy and renewable energy. Also, as you know, the Boardman Hemingway line is under construction. So those things are all emerging together. We are waiting for the final board decision on the Columbia River Heritage Trail Plan and our Goal 8 recreation element update. Last week, we had a bright young high school student from Boardman High School who came to us and wants to do his Eagle Scout project on the Columbia River Heritage Trail. That's like divine intervention. It's just perfect. We're super excited that he is excited. We gave him a whole list of options and he had ideas. So I think over the next 6 months or so, we'll see an actual student involvement, which just gets more attention and more energy. We've had some meetings with Vince Guerrero and the park staff about how to implement different pieces. Vince is taking the lead on the regulatory process with Army Corps of Engineer. So things are moving along. It won't just be a piece of art sitting on the shelf. It will actually have some real meaningful value. Stephen included a picture of some drone work he's done. He went out to the OHV park and hopefully that's useful for Vince and his team. Code compliance doesn't seem to slow down. And this time of year, we usually get a bit of an uptick because people are wanting to work in the yards and make their neighborhoods look nice. So that keeps Caitlin very busy. In terms of water activity, we had our 8th meeting on Monday. I think it was our 8th steering committee meeting for the Bi-County Roadmap project. That meeting is posted on that project website. We have a lot of interest. I think we had 15 people online. Really excellent coordination with the cities, both our cities and Hermiston and Umatilla on implementation. I don't want to be a spoiler alert, but the lead on that project, Ronan and Gloria, who you've heard from multiple times, said internally they're starting to call it the roadblock project because all of these, I know it sounds really depressing.
Who's saying that?
Ronan and his team. So, and the reason is there are a lot of barriers to extending water from public systems to these individual households. Cost is a tremendous factor. Landowner desire is another factor. There are other factors as well. And then that final report that you'll see in August, and we may schedule another bi-county meeting with both boards, Morrow and Umatilla County, and have Ronan do, and his whole team, HDR engineers, do a formal presentation. I'm proud of Morrow County for being what seems like a step ahead with the Clean Water Consortium, talking about implementation. And there was a little bit of interplay with that discussion at our meeting on Monday. But again, the scope of the steering committee is to look at opportunities to extend water from a public water system, although there is some analysis about on-site individual treatment as well. So hopefully we'll reduce some of those barriers. I didn't include it in my memo, but I think I've introduced her to a few of you. Justin and I are co-hosting Lewis and Clark Law School extern. She has a lot of interest in natural resources and in rural Eastern Oregon. And she's written a couple of memos for us that are useful, and she is also working on a memo relative to the roadmap project. We just talked yesterday afternoon. I think that might be her last and final for at least this semester. It's always exciting to me to get young professionals who want to come out and work in Eastern Oregon, both in legal work and in planning, because it doesn't, they don't know what they're missing until they've been exposed to it. So I appreciate Justin's support working with Christina. I don't know that you'll actually meet her. She's only been on site once. But I think it's a real value to the county at no cost other than we agreed to reimburse her travel expenses when she comes out, because she doesn't live here. She's attending law school in Portland. I've been involved with the Boardman Source Water Protection Plan just as a committee member. The heavy lifting really goes to the city and GSI, who is also their consultant. Just interesting to learn some of the challenges and opportunities cities have with their water system, which is obviously very important. Caitlin and I are working on the final part of the Tower Road Interchange Area Management Plan. And as you know, we have a joint Planning Commission Board of Commissioners meeting at the end of this month. It's a work session. We'll hear from Kittleson and Associates and ODOT on their recommendations for interchange design, for new standards, and for an overlay zone language. You know, that part doesn't sound as exciting, but that's a necessary part. And we also are working with ODOT on the final scope of work. We actually pretty much have that complete to start the transportation system plan update. So I'm glad those projects will not overlap. We'll finish one transportation project and begin with another. George has a lot of experience with transportation planning, so he might get to take the lead on that project. Excuse me, Stephen and I are working with a group, including Steve Freeland, emergency manager, and the fire chiefs and Oregon Department of Forestry on an update for the community wildfire protection plan. I do hope the legwork on that, we're designing it so it doesn't really come to the planning office. It really hopefully will be outsourced with Steve Freeland and the fire chiefs taking the lead on that. As a final note, I attended a community partners meeting in LeGrand last week, hosted by the Rural Engagement and Vitality Center, and they had cities and counties and other entities just showcasing projects that they had worked on for us. Did I miss anything?
I think you covered it. Oh, the tour of the port.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot. Last week, George and I joined the Port Commission and staff and did a tour of projects. We don't get to go out and see projects that we're involved with in terms of the regulatory process or planning process. So that was really helpful. We're really appreciated. Learned a lot and shared a few things as well. So enjoyed doing that. The last piece I didn't include, and I'll probably include it in April. There's a lot of activity now happening at the CDA. So looking at things like legal descriptions and road dedications, et cetera. And at least preliminarily, the port staff and us have agreed to sit down and kind of brainstorm what they're thinking in terms of future development so that we share ideas and don't get caught off guard when they have proposals that come in. It'll just be a real informal exchange of ideas, and we're really looking forward to that. It also will lean on some of George's skills as well. And that concludes my presentation.
Any questions of Tamara?
Oh, no, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Let's go with the sheriff's report. Brian's here for that.
Good morning. Where do I start today? So we lost, jump into the bad, we lost a deputy 2 weeks ago. He decided to resign. So we're down now. We have an opening in our patrol division. We did hire, or we have hired a new dispatcher. He will start on Monday, the 23rd, which means we're down to only one opening in dispatch, so trade. And the other divisions are set and strong. We are geared up and we're getting ready for the OHV season to start for us, along with the Marine season. And everything's looking good there. We were, or not we, the state Marine Board, and I don't know the details, but they were able to obtain, we were cut. Let me back up, sorry. So last year they cut our budget, and we have been notified and have received the documentation that they have found some money. So July 1, the part that they cut, we will actually get most of that back to end our season with. So, which is good. Gets a little bit more reimbursement out of that. So that'll help balance that out. Our patrol rifle project has come to an end, at least for us. Check hasn't been wrote yet, but we have very happily and eagerly took possession of those new patrol rifles yesterday morning. Documentation has been submitted for payment, and they are fantastic. We haven't actually taken them out in the field yet. We just got them in and had to do the inventory and all the paperwork, but they look fantastic. We're super excited to get them out in the field and get some training with them. With that said, on March 25th will be our first scheduled training day, so we can get them out and get familiar with them and get efficient. So if you guys would like to come out and see what we have purchased and what will be out in the patrol cars, please reach out to me, and we will get you out there, and you can even test fire one of them. Make sure I say the right word on that. But they are very nice, and we are excited to get them out. And what I'd like to show you what we are currently using compared to what we now have. It is night and day. So it's a fantastic
Full auto.
No, sir. We thought about it. No, they are not full auto.
There's budgetary constraints.
Oh, yeah, right, okay.
I mean, we can talk about that later. It's an easy fix, but at this current time, they are not full auto. Let's see what else. Oh, on a high note, back in February, 4 of our dispatchers, Lieutenant Kristen Bowles, Sergeant Sarah Baker, and communications deputies Walton and Carr was involved in an incident where a 70-year-old female was out at 3 Mile campground, unconscious and not breathing. Due to their quick actions, their ability to manage and communicate over the phone to those on scene and walk them through CPR, and was able to, they did a great job allowing time for EMS, Orban Fire, and law enforcement to arrive. That individual is expected to make a full recovery. And due to their actions, Lieutenant Sam Irons with the Boardman Fire Department put them in for a clinical save award with Zoll. For those who are not familiar with Zoll, Zoll is a medical provider, and you got the Zoll AEDs. They were all 4 Lieutenant Bowles, Sergeant Baker, and communications deputies Walter and Carr received the clinical save award, and it was presented by Lieutenant Sam Irons with the Boardman Fire Department last week. So that was, you may have seen that on Facebook, but that was pretty exciting, and for them to be recognized for what they do behind the scenes. About all I got. Unless you guys got questions.
Good. Any questions, Brian?
The whole great report.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
The treasurer's report, Jaylene, see her online, normally she just gives us written, so we'll go with that. Okay, Veteran Service Quarterly Report, Amanda.
Good morning, Commissioners. Amanda Kendrick from the Veteran Services. You should have my report in your packet as well. Just some highlights, office visits, both in my office and home visits seem to be going up, which is always great, and I do expect it to continue to do that as the weather gets nicer. I've seen an increase in that. Let's see, we had about almost $30,000 in new awards in this quarter, which is October, November, and December. And retroactive, which means we applied for it at this month, and then of course the VA takes their time, and they didn't get it until 6 months later. Well, they're gonna get that retroactive date and get paid for that. So that was a little over $100,000 for the quarter. You can see a list of meetings that I attend and host. Other services that we perform, so not just filing claims, you know, if people come in with a variety of reasons, they need help with energy assistance. So I'm a resource of getting them where they need to go and helping them file paperwork, or maybe it's working with them with technology. Some of the older veterans are not so great with that, or they don't have internet at their house, or they don't own a computer, they don't have a smartphone. So I help with anything like that, anything that they need, and they come in, we try to do our best to help them. Is there any questions on my quarterly report?
Any questions for Amanda?
No.
Okay, then I seem to, next is the budget, which we seem to be on track for that. And I did include a picture of the Hepner awards that we went to for Veterans Day. That was a great, appreciation for them, and they do an amazing job every year. So I'm there, and I have a little table, so when they walk in, if they have any questions, I hand out my information and just give out all the information that I can and try to get them into the office. And I am currently working on a grant. I would like to start a evening dinner in Boardman. Currently, I do the morning time here in Oregon on Thursdays. I have a monthly lunch that I do in Hepner for veterans. So my next goal is having something out in Boardman, and they are the more working group. So I thought evening would be best. So I'm currently working on a grant for that.
Awesome.
Okay, any questions for Amanda? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is the county administrator, Matt.
Thank you, commissioners. I've provided a written report summarizing some of the things we worked on in the last 2 weeks. Did want to just highlight a couple of the items. First of all, Bill was on with the labor negotiations. We'll be starting that April 2nd. Look forward to engaging with them. Phil's new with the Teamsters Union, and we've already worked with them on a few items, and look forward to working through this with him. Fairground projects, we're working on those, working to get done by the April 1st deadline. It looks like we're on schedule right now. 2 items that I wanted the board to be aware of. With the grant projects, we had about $8,500 left of the grant. We're going to be requesting one last little project. We had the sheep barn vents that were there, and we offered to install them ourselves as part of it and just picking up materials, and that's not allowed in the grant. So we had to go get some pricing for that, and we have, and we're just getting that taken care of. We've got assurances that that can be completed by April 1st. So that'd be an add-on. We'll be coordinating that with Bonnie at Business Oregon to get that thumbs up on that before we sign any contracts. The other aspect, not necessarily with the grant projects, we've become aware of an issue with the sprinkler system in the indoor arena. It's kind of hit the lifespan where the sprinkler heads are not holding pressure. And so the system has a pump that pressurizes the system all the time, and that compressor is continually running almost now. And so because the system's not holding it. So there's several sections that are compromised as far as the pipe that needs to be replaced, and the sprinkler heads need to be replaced. It's gonna, the cost is $14,335. We are planning we've discussed this with finance and with the fairgrounds representatives, and we figure that this does can be considered a capital maintenance item. So we'll be taking this out of the $1 million grant. Just wanted to bring that up. If there was any questions or concerns from the Board of Commissioners, we're going to be proceeding that way. So the other item is, as Tamara had mentioned, we have a couple large solar projects and that they're pushing to get in before the tax rebates and that go away, the tax funding that. One of the options that we have to make sure that we have capacity is to engage in a reimbursement agreement with the companies where they will pay for any additional contractors services that we need to do to engage with to make sure we get these permits taken care of and with capacity. So they just barely sent over an agreement to me. I have not had a chance to review that with legal counsel, but I wanted to touch base with you all, not necessarily a motion, just to see if that's something that is worth considering. Pretty much it would be a pass-through expense with some administrative markup on the cost of that, just to make sure that we don't get underwater and trying to take care of any of these projects that are suddenly rushing to get through some timeline schedules and requirements. And so I'm looking into that. If you do have any questions or concerns, love to hear about that. Otherwise, we have the Morrow County Employee Appreciation Event this Friday at 5:30. It starts at the Port of Morrow offices. And so it's up north, and we have over 100 people reserved to come to it. So we're excited about that. We'll be recognizing about 17 people for years of service. One of the longtime people is back in the corner over there. He's getting a 25-year service award. And so we're excited to do that and look forward to engaging with that. We also have the County Compensation Board meeting that's set up for March 27th at 3 p.m. That's Friday. And we do have some appointments to the board to consider a little bit later in this meeting. So with that, if there's any questions.
Is that 5:30? I was thinking the invitation said 6.
5:30 open, the cash bar opens up, and at 6 o'clock is more or less the event.
Okay,
So,
okay.
and we do have 2 elected officials that are getting years of service award. And looking at the chair, unless you want to delegate, just to make mention of it, we have Justin Nelson and Bobby Childers who will be getting service years award. So
Yeah.
we're having all of our departments, instead of me up there boring everybody, we're having the department heads recognize the people within their departments for the years of service.
Good idea.
Okay, so we'll just, if you're okay bragging about Justin and Bobby, we'd love to have you do that.
Yeah, you just tell me where you want me, when you want me.
Okay. So,
Something real quick. This is just for the record.
Sure thing.
Not picking, but your administrative report goes from March 1st to 2027 to March 14th, 2027. And like I said, I don't. Does that matter?
well, I submitted
No,
on
I
the
don't.
13th, and so,
Just for the record.
yeah, so I don't have write-ups for Monday and Tuesday, so.
It's not
Oh, 2027? Well, this
You're a
is what
little
will be
ahead of-
happening next year. I think we're working on classifications, and I'm writing fiscal year 2027 all the time. So thank you. I will get that corrected
No, it's
before it
just-
goes into the final record.
Yeah, it's just not a big.
No, good point.
No. Okay. Any questions on that?
More of a comment, the M&A project permitting, that was my suggestion to them, that they help pay for it. So that's, yes, I have a great desire to see that done. If we're gonna help them do it, they can help us pay for it.
Yeah.
So,
My
comment.
Any other questions on that? Okay, thank you. Okay, next up, we have our consent agenda. You guys want to pull anything out of that?
I don't, so I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion carried. All right, let's jump into our business items. Presentation by the City of Boardman, Elected Inspector Services. Brandon is here.
Okay, so thank you for your time. Let me introduce you to Glenn McIntyre. That speaks for itself.
Presenting. So I wanted to come to you guys because I think it's important that we,
Just to break in, Glenn, if you don't know, Glenn is the building inspector for the city of Boardman, which we contract with. He takes care of all the building inspections across the
I'm the building official.
building official, sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a fine line.
Yes.
I still do inspections. I have one actually out at the courthouse today. So right now, electrical inspections and permanent services are provided by Building Codes Division. And it has been that way since the conception of building permits out here. And I think I think it's a good idea for the county to pursue that and take that over. To assume the electrical program for Morrow County. So it's a pretty in-depth progress that I have to accomplish. BCD has a huge number of rules. And the first step is to get direction from you guys. Is this something you guys want to do? This you guys, I mean, because it's the county's going to do it and Boardman's going to run it for the county. And I'll do all the legwork as far as getting the work done and presenting this, going to the electrical board meetings and all of that stuff.
I assume you would be faster than the state.
I have to run by the state's rules. They dictate the rules and we have to have all of our documentation in by September of this year. And they have until July of 27 to decide. That's, if they approve it, that's when Morrow County would take over the electrical program.
Yeah.
It takes a while.
Takes a long time.
And there's a bunch of hoops I gotta jump through. A resolution from the board is not a requirement, but it's pretty standard operating procedures. And it's not expected, but it's something that looks really good to BCD that we actually went to the board, got your direction and your blessing on moving forward.
And just to clarify, Commissioner, are you meaning if we can go a little like with inspections?
That is what I meant.
Yeah.
So right now I did some research. Unfortunately, to do research in electrical inspections, I have to do one permit at a time. In 2025, there was just under 1,060 electrical permits issued. I've gotten to about 200 of them. But in the North County, they're providing pretty good service. I mean, they do next day inspections, especially with Amazon, because they need to move forward. But part of my spreadsheet was when was the inspection requested and when was the inspection provided. And it's typically next day. It's the outer, I mean, the state does pretty much entire Eastern Oregon. I mean, it's those ones that they get once a week, if they're lucky, service. But where development is happening, the state is providing pretty good service. We can provide that easily, but in my mind, it would be nice to have that under one roof instead of the electrical people going to the state, everybody else coming to Boardman.
Yeah.
It would be nice to have it all under one.
And based on the correspondence that we've had with the state, their ultimate goal is to have counties and cities take it over.
Yeah.
So,
That
but
is-
just most counties and cities are not like our area and have the ability to take it over, whereas we do.
Yeah, and there's a long list of items that the state is gonna want us to do. We have to do an economic evaluation. Do we have the money to provide this service? They don't allow us to raise rates for 4 years, so we have to have at least 4 years. And the city of Boardman is more than capable financially. The downside is that electrical inspectors are hard to come by, so.
But I think given the growth that we've got, it might be a little bit easier to get somebody to move here, because it's
I would hope so.
the stability of the. I mean, how many did you say were done last year? 1,000?
1,000, just under 1,060 electrical permits issued.
I think we've got enough.
That's in just
demand.
Morrow County.
Yeah.
Oops.
Just for clarification, so this would, I mean, while it's a commitment by the county to assume it, there's no specific fiscal impact on it because it's all contracted fee for service type of arrangement.
They're gonna want the county's weigh in. And then I'll just steer all of that. That's not a problem. I'll bring, if they want documentation from the county, I'll draft it and bring it to the appropriate person for review and approval. So.
And it all derived from Glenn has been in communication and does have someone that's very interested in being the electrical inspector. And then as we go in further and get more information, it's like, oh, okay, may take a little bit. So just trying to get the
Yeah,
ball rolling.
their 14-month timeframe from start to end is. Well,
The state.
as I was just gonna say, that's the state building codes division and they're just as red tape as any rest of the state.
And it might be a good time to also like update the language in the contract that we have with the county.
Oh, to review our IGA
Mhm.
because.
And how it's written.
Because we're adding a whole nother service.
Well, I would support that. So, do you have are there any resolutions in the state that we could use as a model, or do we?
I provided a draft
Okay.
resolution in the pack, like I attempted to. Does that or not, but that's what my AI
Yes.
came up.
And as far as the timing of that resolution, when would does that?
I'd like to bring it next week.
Okay.
I mean, I have a lot on my plate to get done by the end of September, so.
Well,
The
if
sooner we
we
get
were to
started.
act on it like in April 1st or have that in consideration.
Yeah,
So,
whatever you guys want to look at,
And we'd have to have legal review. I mean, again, it was just a draft and.
just to give you an idea what the.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would be comfortable. I would want our legal to go through it too. But yeah, I think on April 1st, we could have a resolution ready to vote on. That's my thought.
No, I agree. I think when, years ago was 20+ years ago when the county took over building codes from the state, we saw
2001, yeah.
a big improvement in service in Morrow County. Yes, there's a sector that's getting served right now, but it sounds like other parts of the county aren't being served. And as long as we have the commitment that, the level that we're getting or parts of it doesn't decrease and, and I was glad to hear you acknowledge that there is probably a challenge of getting an inspector, but, that you have plenty of time to get that figured out if we move forward with this. It sounds like because the state won't allow you until 2027, so.
July 27th. Yeah, electrical inspectors are required to be a journeyman electrician. Right now, journeyman electricians
Are in high demand and they get lots of overtime.
make more than any electrical inspector will ever make.
Yes.
Any other
Maybe not
questions?
ever.
Anything else to add there? Your report?
No, that's it. Just looking for some direction.
Okay, we have a suggested motion there.
We don't really need a motion.
Yeah.
Consensus.
Yeah, I think it'll come back as a resolution. If we were going to
and it will-
approve the resolution today, that's fine, but with both legal counsel of the city of Boardman and Morrow County looking it over, I think the consensus is no action needed, but it'll be brought back for the board as a business item on April 1st for consideration of a resolution.
Okay, it sounds like we have consensus, so.
Yeah, we do. So,
Thank you.
thank
We're
you.
good to go.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Consider approving, to be able to repeat that section. Building comments on the notice of intent to file. M&A for the Wellspring Solar. Project.
Before we get started, Dave, I will declare a potential conflict of interest. I'm on the UEC Board of Directors. I did reach out and verify that currently UEC does not have any agreements with M&A. Who's to say in the future that we may not? So I will potential conflict.
That doesn't mean you're finding, though, right?
Right.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeff.
Okay,
Good morning. For the record, Tamara Mabott, Planning Director. So in front of the board today is a letter for your consideration to send to the Energy Facility Siting Council. Siting officer is Christopher Clark. This is the first step in the county's role interacting with the state agency for this project. And as I noted earlier, so did Administrator Jensen and Commissioner Peterson. This is a project that may end up withdrawing from the state and applying locally. But until that's happened, we need to continue to move forward with this process. This letter is the county's response to the notice of intent. And I worked together with Eric Imes and Corey Sweeney. So this letter includes the local applicable criteria that would apply. So in addition to land use, we have solid waste, public works, and the weed department. And I think your map or your packet includes a copy of the map, so you see the location. I was just saying we collaborated on this letter there, Eric.
Thank you.
So it's a large project, not quite as large as the Pine Gate Renewables project, but fairly large. They have one of the notes in there is they've selected 5 routes for the transmission line. And the transmission line is a separate process. It's what we call a land use decision permit.
Is that a standard thing to have multiple transmission line options?
I don't know
Well,
what standard.
when you go through FSEC, you have to have your preferred route and an alternative route, so.
Yeah. Yes, but the permit for it would come from us. FSEC doesn't permit the transmission line unless it's over 10 miles and is in multiple jurisdictions and is 230 kV or larger. If it meets one of those, then it bumps over to FSEC. Yeah.
And the proposed does not meet any of those particular.
It'll probably be a 231.
I was thinking that.
So we could permit a 230 kV. We would permit this one, even though it's 230, and we'll be probably right at 10 miles, but it's all within Morrow County.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seems silly to approve the letter, but until they officially pull out.
That's right.
You gotta-
Yeah. It's been my professional opinion that the state should not approve an energy generation project without a transmission line. We don't even permit a house without an access permit. So which is why they're required to conceptually show the location of the transmission lines. But there have been some very large projects that FSEC approved and then
Figure it
later.
out.
And it kind of drives land acquisition and PUC involvement in different ways because of that. So having it at the local level and holistically looking at it, I think is a good thing.
I was looking at this, and at what point, and maybe they did because it's been a while since I looked. What point did they put the supporting documents on the FSEC site?
When they there's one, did you look there, the NOI, the notice of intent, which is pretty long, that's on the webpage. So when they file their application, the next phase is ASC, application for the site certificate, then they have all the supporting documents. Some of it's included in the NOI phase.
Yeah. I just, there was some there that is, some stuff that isn't. And I'm just curious at what point I couldn't remember from the other projects, at what point they usually flush that out and get all the. Yeah.
I have to check myself.
Oh,
So
no, that's
I mean, there's just usually a lot of information attached to these.
Yeah, I know. There it is. I like to read it.
And also the public meeting, FSEC always has a like a public input meeting in the area in which the project's located. That's tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. I think this is at the Sage Center. They're 6:15. They have another project, another FSEC project at 5:30 p.m. And I don't have the letter ready for you for that, but I'll have it ready for the April 1st meeting, unless that project also decides to
be
permit
local.
at the local level.
Okay.
So if you're interested, usually the landowners show up to those meetings. Agency folks, George and I will be there.
Okay, any questions, Tara?
Nope.
All right, thank you much. All right, consideration.
Well, I move to approve the letter
Oh, yeah.
for the notice of intent comments for the Well Springs solar project.
Thank you.
Second.
Move the second to approve the letter for the Well Springs project. All in favor?
I
Aye. All opposed, motion carried.
thank you for including the comments, Tamara, on expanding the area of impact.
Oh, thank you. Yep. Yeah. Good.
Yay, you're still with us. Consideration to appoint a Morrow County Planning Commissioner to represent the Oregon area.
Thank you. I didn't bring my cover sheet. Okay, I'll stay right here. We do have a impending vacancy. Terrific planning commission member. She's just involved in so many things. We got the short straw, but I understand her value to Oregon is really tremendous. So I appreciate that. So Charlene Cooley has tendered her resignation. She agreed to stay on until we have an appointment to replace her. And I might ask her to stay on for the March meeting because it's a continued hearing. And she said she would do that. So she has resigned and we advertised in the paper. We also staff tried to talk to folks who might know anybody in the area, and we only had one person apply, and his name is Brian George, and his information is in your packet. So if you do consider appointing him, if you wouldn't mind making the motion to fulfill the term of Charlene Cooley, which expires at the end of the year, and then also for the subsequent term, which would begin in January.
It's not on your cover sheet. How you want it?
Oh, I didn't put the motion on there, did I? Oh, yes, I did. Consider appointment of Brian George to serve on the planning commission. And up above on item 1 is to appoint to complete the current term and to serve a new term beginning January 1, 2027. And Brian George and his wife live south of town, and they're known at the farmers markets. They raise bees, and they've only been in Oregon, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years, and are looking for an opportunity to be involved.
Okay, can we group those in one motion, or we need two, Justin?
So it's the one, if my understanding is correct, it is, the motion would be motion to appoint Brian George to complete the current term of
Charlene Cooley.
Charlene Cooley, and as a service and to serve a new term beginning January 1st, 2027.
Yes.
Okay, so it's a single motion and it does both, completes the one term, then the current term then begins on January 1st, 2027. So I think that's the only motion that we needed, a single one, and that should be sufficient.
Valerie, did you write that down?
Kind of.
I move to appoint Brian George to finish out Charlene Cooley's term and then begin a new term January 1st, 2027 for the Planning Commission.
Second.
Move to second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Lieutenant. That was our consideration to appoint 2 members of the Morrow County Compensation Board. Matt, you're on that.
Yes, commissioners, per ORS 204.112, each county governing body is required to appoint a county compensation board to review the compensation levels of elected officials.
Oh,
And in this, the committee can range from 3 to 5 members. We've traditionally had 5 members on the board. We had one person finish their term and not want to be reappointed, and another person had moved away. And so we did an advertisement for candidates for the compensation board. To fill those 2 vacancies, we had 2 applicants apply. Their applications are included in your packet. The one is Brandon Hammond, who's currently serving as the city manager of the city of Boardman, and Edith Velasco, who is a longtime resident of Morrow County, is currently working for the county in the public health department. We have received a concern about having a county employee participate on the committee. However, in review of the ORS, there isn't anything that really sets requirements or prohibitions, and that would be up to the Board of Commissioners based on your desire to appoint. And so we've forwarded the two applications to you. We need 3. We have the 3 committed who are currently on it to participate on the 27th. We'd love to have 5 to have an odd number just in case there's a tie on any considerations. 4 becomes a little bit awkward. But we would like to present these 2 applicants for your consideration for the Morrow County compensation.
Okay. Any questions? Bobby, is she still there? I just want to make a comment. I was surprised to see a county employee on. I've been going to these for quite some time. Previous to being on here. That's the first time I ever saw a county employee determining salaries of other county employees. So that does concern me. So I don't know about you guys, but
I personally agree. I don't have anything against this particular employee, but I think it would be better to not have county employees on the compensation board. That would be my preference.
I agree with both of them.
Okay.
And we didn't have that. That's not anywhere in writing. So as we received the application, we felt we should forward that to you for consideration and determination.
You, I think you did correctly. Thank you.
If you wanted to proceed with the 1 applicant, that gives us a board of 4, which could create some issues. Maybe not. Or we could just proceed with the 3 members as currently constituted.
I think we'd be fine with 4.
I was gonna ask you, I mean, do you have a recommendation? I understand where you're coming from, but just by reading of the minutes from the past ones, I don't know that there's ever been anything where they've had split votes.
Yeah, I think they've been pretty unified. So
I guess if they prove us wrong and 4 is a problem, then
yeah.
I've never seen them. They talk things out pretty good. They're a communicative group, the meetings I watch. So yeah, I'm good with 4.
So I would make the motion to appoint Brandon Hammond to the compensation board in terms of
Second on that one.
December 31, 2029.
I second.
And Chair, before you call the vote, Bobby did.
Oh, Bobby, okay, you got your hand up. Go for it.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so, I wasn't really on this one. I had my hand up for the planning commission.
Okay, could you hold tight while we finish
Yes.
this? We
Yes.
got this motion on the floor for the compensation,
Yes.
and we'll come back to you. Okay. And we got a second. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion carried. Okay. You got a comment on the planning?
So I just wanted, y'all to know and Tamara to let, Brian George know, he will have to file, ethics. So, we're right in the middle of that right now until April 15th. So if he's being put on, we need to get his information so we can send it to the Ethics Commission so that he takes and files that timely. Sorry.
No, that's really good reminder. Thank you, Bobby. Can you relay that, Tamara?
So Bobby, if he didn't officially take office until after April 15th, would it, because I mean, it's getting down to a crunch time and I'd give him a year to get into that.
Yeah.
Would that be a thing?
I don't know. That's an ethics question.
Okay.
Is the statement of economic interest, is that just a deadline for the form or the deadline for the?
April 15th is the deadline to have it in and then you start.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah.
But is it the deadline for the term?
If he's on it, he will need to do it regardless whether he starts.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
I just wondered if we were considering moving that, if it really had something to do with, yeah, I should have
So,
There's miscommunication there, so
Yeah.
never mind.
yeah, it just basically says that he's making decisions for the county, and as such, they have to put that in. So,
Relatively straightforward. Bill.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, sorry.
no problem.
I'll reach out to Bob.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so we're on to E, Morrow County Triennial Review Report, Robin and Kevin.
Yeah, I see Robin on the Zoom.
Did you hear us, Robin? Oh, she disappeared.
Should consider.
There she is. Oh, there, now I'm unmuted. Thank you. Good morning, commissioners. Yes, the triennial review, I'm going to let Kevin share the fiscal portion because he has some explanations around that. I apologize for my scratchy voice this morning. Anyhow, the triennial review is a review that's done every 3 years through OHA on our whole department. So several different categories within public health and within the county. So fiscal, there's also some vital records that they look at, which there was one compliance finding in the vital records portion. And I think Bobby was on here. She might be able to explain what that finding was better than I, and how they resolved it. I think it had to do with how they access people's records they had to add 2 identifiers, the name and the death date, if I remember right. She can correct me if that's wrong, but that was the how they resolved the finding in vital records. In public health, in our immunization program, there was 2 findings and they were resolved right away. One was a missing invoice when they were at our site to do the review, and we located the invoice, got it to finance, and got it paid right away. And the other thing was we had an outdated cost analysis. So the OHA provided us with a new cost analysis tool, and we were able to do that right away also. So those 2 findings were resolved. And then in the food, pool, and lodging section of public health, which we contract out to Umatilla County, there was 3 findings, and I reached out to my counterpart, Joe Fumira at Umatilla County, and he gave me an explanation for all 3 of the findings. I've forwarded them on to Valerie. Did you get those, Valerie?
Yes.
Okay, and I can read them to you if you like, but the first finding, what Joe said was that had to the issue stemmed from late fees that they apply to temporary restaurant licenses. And he has a whole explanation of the cost and what policies they put in place. And it's there for your reference if you want it. And do you want me to read it, the whole thing to you right now? Or do you want to just reference it?
I'm good with referencing it. Thank you, Robin.
Yeah, because it's a big, long explanation. And then item number 2 did have to do with the percentage of inspections that are done. So he did right here in 2024, they issued 22 temporary permits for for-profit organizations, and 18 of them were inspected. So the results were 82% inspection rate. And in 2025, 19 permits were issued and 16 of them were inspected for 84% inspection rate. So typically 90% is needed to maintain compliance. So they were just below that level. And he said he does have concerns that the removal of the late fee, which is referenced in number 1, is going to make it harder for those inspections to be completed as required. So that was just of note that he has a concern about that. And then item number 3 was a compliance finding. Let's see. So it wasn't, he said it wasn't a lack of conducting re-inspections, but a timeline issue. They didn't get it done, the re-inspections done in the right amount of time that OHA requires. So they're working on Let's see, follow-up inspections were conducted in 2025 as a result. So they're working on that issue. So those were the compliance findings for the food, pool, and lodging. And then the other compliance findings were in our fiscal triennial review. So I think Kevin has some more details on those. If you don't have any questions about the 3 sections that I mentioned.
I do, Robin. So what, do we pay a penalty for Umatilla having findings? I mean, so we contract out with them, so it's our responsibility, but they're the ones who are doing the work. So where does the brunt of responsibility? It sounds like, relatively speaking, it's not a big deal, but if something big were to come up, how would that play out?
That's a good question. I'm not really sure. I'd have to reach out to OHA and get that answer for you.
Okay.
I don't want to speak out of turn. I would have to refer to them to find out for sure. Oh, maybe Kevin knows.
So, I mean, generally speaking, where we contract services out that are provided for under one of the OHA grants, we're, required to monitor and ensure compliance and that the work the contract is providing for us meets all the, it doesn't alleviate our obligation to monitor and ensure compliance.
Okay. That's kind of what I thought, but good to confirm. Okay.
Thanks, Kevin.
Okay, any other questions for Robin? Do you have anything else to add, Robin?
Just if there's any other questions along with the fiscal review that I can answer, I'll be here.
Okay.
So on the fiscal findings, there was nothing significant, major material, I guess I would say. We had a few findings, and in some cases, one finding created and correction of that one finding or adjustment of a cost that wasn't allowable created other findings, because now reports that were filed based on inclusion of certain costs are now not accurate. So generally speaking, there were a couple of issues identified with timekeeping practices and records. Our current process is sound, just some additional documentation requirements. And I think the specific example was if we have to modify somebody's time records, that we complete that full circle and make sure that we have documentation that the supervisor and the employee themselves have approved that and capture that and document it somehow. Robin is working on, she's probably waiting on me at this point, a standard operating procedure to address this within the public health department. And then that's just a standard good practice in general. And we're addressing that with configuration in our new timekeeping system for countywide. There was a couple of there was some training documentation. We had a finding where a charge was made against a grant that was for a conference or some training that ultimately ended up being the employees' plans changed and they didn't attend, but we didn't adjust that cost of the hotel and lodging that apparently we weren't able to get a refund for at the last minute off of the grant. Obviously, if they don't attend, we can't cover that with grant funds. And that is already provided for somewhat in our training policy, travel policy, and will can be addressed through additional training and documentation of training. There was some discussion on the de minimis indirect cost rate applied to grants. Specifically, the issue was we didn't have it footnoted in our audited financial statements. I had thought that I communicated that to our auditors for inclusion, that the county elects the federal de minimis indirect cost reimbursement rate, and I had not. So that communication is going to our auditors to get included in the following fiscal year's financial statements. I think that hits the most significant items. Any questions on those?
I mean, it sounds like we're going to get better at it, so.
Yeah, and compared to the long list and you know, the compliance findings in the last triennial review, much bigger lift and to develop a plan. So we're working with public health to address these through a documented action plan with OHA, and we have some plans to do some training with the finance department along with the public health department employees to make sure that we're, you know, all on the same page with it. So
Great.
Okay, any other questions? This is a FYI, I guess, presentation, so. But if there are any more questions, okay.
Nope.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Okay, ratification, next up, ratification of 2025-27 collective bargaining agreement, Morrow County Sheriff's Sergeant Association. Matt, yours.
Yes, as we've met previously, we have finalized the contract with the Morrow County Sheriff's Office Sergeants Association. This is our initial collective bargaining agreement with this group. And as discussed before, we pretty much mirrored the items that were in the Teamsters Union to provide them and make them whole compared to what the deputies have. They have ratified the agreement since you approved it. I was supposed to have them sign it yesterday, but through an Outlook glitch, that will happen tomorrow. So we'd ask for just your consideration to proceed with signature of the contract so that we can proceed with their signature and get it started. So we've was a bit of a process. We're glad to get this initial one over. One thing is because of the creation of the association and delays in the bargaining and everything, the one kicker is this only goes through 2027, June 1st, June 30th, 2027. So we'll be back next year at this time, hopefully just buffing it off and continuing on with the process. So it's really a two-year cycle, but we're 9 months into the initial year.
You'll be back before then. Starting.
Yes, hopefully we'll be.
How long do you start before that?
Generally, we get like with the Teamsters that we're doing right now, theirs expires June 30th of 2027 or 2026. And I'm on that 27 kick now. There, sorry. There's
been so fast.
Yeah, exactly. Theirs expires June 30th, 2026. They've notified us at the first of the year. We've got it set up. So hopefully we can follow suit on that. It's always nice to give about a 6-month window to notice, get things together and have those discussions. So hopefully we can have it in place before the term starts.
Okay. Any other questions of Matt?
Decided to make this motion.
We got the motion here.
I move to ratify the collective bargaining agreement between Morrow County and the Morrow County Sheriff's Sergeants Association.
Second.
Moved to second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Okay, next up is our Morrow County Sheriff's Association Sergeant
As a
bonus letter.
Yes, as a separate action from the collective bargaining agreement, the Sergeants Association will be receiving a ratification bonus of $1,500 per individual. This agreement allows that to process. We will also have this signed tomorrow by the union representatives. We'd ask as this was previously approved by the commission, we ask for your final authorization to proceed with this.
I move to approve the Sergeants Association ratification bonus letter and authorize staff to proceed with processing the bonus on a separate check from the standard payment process.
Second.
Moved in second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. All right.
Thank you.
Now, Matt.
Consideration, yeah. Thanks, Brian. Consideration of update to county personnel policy 7F, gifts and gratuities now.
So this has been an outstanding issue where the OGEC provided a ruling and they kind of caused a lot of question on the gifts and particularly in relation to food for county and governmental employees. It created a lot of confusion, and in the recent state legislative session, the state passed HB 4161 by pretty much a 70-30 split, but in both chambers, overwhelming support on that. That reverses the OGEC ruling, as they said, in an effort to restore common sense and clarity around food and beverages. And so they made it set up that if it's intermittent, not a regular type of perk, that it's not taxable and it's allowable, and that the county can provide merchandise up to $100 for an employee during the year. And so we are asking, as we went through this, we asked council to review the policy. We provided them some templates from Umatilla City that provided some guidance on that, and legal counsel provided some additions to our current policy 7F, gifts and gratuities, to provide guidance and make it sync up with HB 4161. And so we're asking the Board of Commissioners to adopt the new personnel policy, and here to answer any questions that you might have about that.
Okay, any questions on this?
No.
Does it pass Jeff's muster?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I've read it. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And this is specifically timely. It was our event this Friday.
Yes, well, I have moved to approve and adopt the update to the county's policy 7F, gifts and gratuities.
Second.
Moved and seconded, further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
No opposed, motion carried. Okay.
And just as a side note, Commission, just to let you know and be fully transparent, we do have some door prizes that people will be able to put in tickets for. They're right at the $100 level, a little bit above. Those, since they're prizes, we're gonna have a little statement that those will be taxable. We'll true that up so there's no impact on the employees, but those are taxable. The items given for years of service, because it's a recognition of service, and that those are not. And so just want to let you know how that works out.
All right, thank you. Okay, consideration of fiscal year 2027 FTE classification request.
Okay. So this is the culmination of the classification requests as we went through. We've provided several documents to help do for your consideration. We received 16 requests for either additional full-time employees or reclassifications. Many of these reclassifications were submitted by the employees directly. As we went through and consider it, there are two positions that were included in the original classification that the board's already acted on. One was the additional public health access specialist, which was funded through additional grants from the state. And the other one was a home visitation nurse, which was actually just a change of job description. We didn't change the classification and such. In this, we have the committee comprised of myself, the HR director, and the finance director reviewed several of the requests. We've submitted determination letters of what we were going to recommend last week. I have received a couple comments back from those, and I'll note those in a second. But what we're looking to do is approve the FTE requests for, it's kind of broken down in a little bit different way. A new FTE request for Public Works, which is a servicing mechanic to bolster up our mechanic shop. This is balanced off by some reduction in maintenance specialists, which we've been trying to keep down to reduce the roads budget, and that's gone very well. And we're streamlining the services there. The other reclassifications are public health data coordinator from grade 18 step 5 to grade 19 step 6, parole and probation work supervisor, grade 16 step 2 to grade 17 step 4, public health the administrative clerk, the senior administrative clerk, grade 10 step 5 to grade 12 step 5, planning technician to associate planner, grade 19, step 4 to grade 23, step 1. And in the justice court, the senior court clerk to an office manager, grade 14, step 9 to grade 17, step 6. The overall impact of this is, has an impact of about $51,000. That's additional funding. That doesn't take in place the public works one, which is balanced out with other reductions of this, but this is kind of the true impact of these. Overall, we had originally asked that these be effective July 1st, 2026. There is one comment that came back that was asking, because grant funding is available now, if they could make it effective now, and that was for the public health data coordinator. And I am agreeable to that if the Board of Commissioners would authorize that. The others would be available July 1st, 2026 as part of the new budget cycle. We did receive one comment about the public health access specialist, where she feels like there's additional consideration that she'd like to review with us. I would like to make note that we will move with them, and if there's anything that comes up, there's additional consideration, we'll bring that up as an out-of-cycle request. And so as such, with the one amendment to the effective date for the public health data coordinator, we'd ask that for the Board of Commissioners approval of the recommended classification request for fiscal year 2027.
Kevin has his hands up.
Just as clarification on the budget, it should be approval for inclusion in the proposed budget, not outright approval.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Approval for inclusion in the proposed budget.
Quick question though too. If there's one that talked about with the grant funding, that would be done earlier.
Yes.
So I think
include in the
we should,
proposed budget, but they should be separate probably, but.
That should be a separate.
yeah,
Okay.
I want to make that complicated of a motion.
Gotcha. All right.
So if I could recommend the first one would be to approve the public health data coordinator to according to the current recommendation, effective immediately. Mm-hmm. And an approval of the other 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positions for inclusion into the
proposed budget for fiscal 27.
Fiscal year 27.
You want those one at a time?
Yeah, I'm going to do them one at a time. So
No, I know you're gonna vote on them. You want them to tell them to you.
Oh, I think I got
You
it.
got them, okay.
We'll find out. Yeah. I move to approve the public health data adjustments effective immediately.
Public health data coordinator reclassification effective immediately.
I move to approve the public health data coordinator reclassification.
Yes.
Effective immediately.
Okay. Second.
Moved and seconded for the discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
Then I move to approve the proposed recommended classification requests for fiscal year 2027 to be included in the proposed budget for fiscal year 2027.
All right. Okay. All right, Kevin. Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Are we
Thank
good?
you.
All right. Okay, next up is J, consideration to cancel contract with MGT for compensation study services. Matt, that's you.
Kevin, I've got you on here as well. Would you mind coming up and discussing this with me? I feel like I've been talking a lot. Commissioners, we're coming to ask you to consider consideration authorizing staff to cancel the contract with MGT for the compensation study services. As we've gone through this protracted process, there's been several times where we've questioned their process and how they put the study together. We've questioned their comparables that they do and also just their conclusions. I will put case in point that their initial final conclusion was an 8.9% increase across the board to all employees. This could not be verified and substantiated through looking at where we are according to their own market studies. Looking at it, our mid-grade was right in line with market areas, if not a little bit high on some positions. Some of them were lower, but that was kind of the final straw in looking at it. We didn't have, not comfortable with the comps, with how they scored and rated the positions, and just their final conclusions were very non-supportive in my mind frame. As Kevin prepared the memo that we've done, I'll let him add on to some of it. But I do realize that this is, they've been working on this for a year. And I don't have the exact amount of what would have to be paid out for the cancellation of it. We paid them for work completed. But I didn't want to go down that alley until we had a discussion with the Board of Commissioners. Then I'll just turn it over to Kevin for any additional comments.
Yeah, so there's two, I guess, main areas of the study, one of which was a concern relatively early on in the process, and Matt made reference to it, and that was the approach to determining comparable entities for compensation. I'll just give you this example. When we got the initial draft, I'm a data guy, so I go and look at where they get the data, what's the sample size, who are they comparing to, and I noticed I think they use a tool from salary.com. I noticed that the description of the data set that was used was government entities in Morrow County with FTEs from between 100 and 200, I think was the description. Yeah, that's Morrow County. So, for example, and this is the best example I could tell you, their initial draft and run at it, they were doing salary comps based on our own salaries that
they were comparing us to ourselves.
Yes. I don't think I need to go into a lot of detail to tell you that's a very statistically insignificant or inappropriate approach. Not only, there's no meaningful conclusion that could be drawn from that. We identified that as an issue, and it took a few back and forths to get them to look at it and realize, I guess, that was an issue. And what's concerning is this is the business that they're in. That's a very basic. It just should have never come to us in that way. As we progressed and trying to broaden the data set, it turned into us identifying what data sets to use and recommendations on where they might find additional relevant market data for us. And that's really not work that that's why we contracted it out, right? So they could perform that work for us.
He didn't want to do the consultant's job for them.
Yeah, we do. We can. It's just why would we be paying them to do it? So
yes.
So that's just one example on the comparables. The other, and I touched on this in the memo that I drafted, and this is the other component of the compensation study where we have, as an organization, we have an obligation to basically organize and place all of our positions on some type of relative scale based on the criteria that are outlined in the Oregon pay equity statutes and administrative rules, so that we can objectively, to the extent that it's possible, justify differences in compensation, essentially. In those statutes and administrative rules, there's specific criteria that are utilized and that we're allowed to utilize in order to justify differences in compensations for different positions. And I identified on there that there's a number of those that weren't even included in the basis of their approach and their model to do that, which as we saw in the drafts that they proposed, made their
findings or recommendations in terms of placement positions along that scale. Just there's the wild variations that are difficult to explain and whatnot. And ultimately came to the conclusion that, you know, from a pay equity requirement standpoint, we wouldn't be able to utilize their recommended placements and justify it as we, you know, if we were ever questioned on it according to the statutes that we have to follow. So there's a lot more detail in my memo. I guess you know, if there's any other questions that you have about that, but overall, you know, we need to have an objective and a reasonable approach, and I don't think that was taken in this case.
The other thing is that this has taken way too dang long.
Some of that's on us.
Yeah, I know, but they have also played a part in that too, and so how close are we to whatever was supposed to be the finished project? I mean, I guess I thought, what are we gonna get by canceling this?
I think because it was, so we're required by statute to do a review of our classification of positions every 3 years. We're not required to outsource that. We're not required to, you know, have a third party do that. That's something that we could do in-house. And I think we're approaching that 3rd year. I think we're on year 2 since we adopted the significant changes from the last compensation review. And you know, this is a very strategic thing. So I think it's just more acknowledgement that the results that have been provided thus far, we don't feel are reliable. And that's why we don't recommend adopting anything that has been produced. In terms of terminating the contract, we, you know, I think that, you know, Matt has the authority to do that, but because of the strategic nature and the visibility to the board and to the employees, we wanted to make sure that the board was included in considering that decision. Does that answer your question?
Yes, yeah. So. Okay. Do we think we can do it in-house, or do we, because I don't want to cancel this and then look for another third party.
So, you want me to?
Let me chime in. A couple things on this. That is one thing. The result of this is previously we have a tool called Job Match. It's actually baked into our policies and several of our labor union agreements. The classifications would be done by that. This third party contractor didn't use those and used a JQ system, which is part of the problem. It doesn't sync up with how we classify those type of items. In looking at this and going through the classification, finance and administration has become much better acquainted with that tool and have affirmed that it's a quality system. It really does have some great metrics, which actually exceeds what the JQ was. And so getting aware of that, looking at the classifications through that system, and then appropriately picking out several comparables that we want to be compared to. You know, if we're ever to go to arbitration, there's always the 3 up, 3 down rule. We need to make sure they're in our comps going in, and not all of them are in this process. So we can pull some pieces of information from it and do it, but really we want to affirm that we can do it in-house. I think we can. Finance is appropriately staffed up with the finance manager who's doing great, and we have the 2 3/4 positions in HR right now, and with administration helping, I think we could do it in-house. And if not, if we needed to do it, then we'd look at something else. But I'm pretty confident we could at least do this one, come show you what we can do, and then look at the next one in 3 years. That would be my response to your question. Anything to add on that, Kevin?
Yeah, just really it would be reiterating what Matt said. The classification tool that we have is a very sound tool, meets all the requirements and variables that we're required to consider to justify differences in positions under the Mortgage Pay Equity statutes.
And previously, utilization of that tool was just with HR. And one of the things that Matt and I were talking about as we went through this process, and so we admittedly had very little in-depth knowledge of it, and as he said, we learned quite a bit about it to be able to do some comparisons. It's probably a better approach to socialize that and just have this committee utilize that tool and give us a bit more of an objective approach. Just one person doing the evaluation, and yeah, I think that we could accommodate that. In terms of comparables with market, we have various data sources that are readily available to us that are significantly less expensive. One of the tools is the Milliman Compensation Survey of Public Employers in Oregon, specific to Oregon. We can derive a significant amount of comparable salary information from that. That's going to be released here within the next few months for the most current version, and that's less than it's $2,000 or $3,000 to purchase that data set. And then we also have the ability just to go out and pull the specific comparables that we would be required to in the case of an arbitration issue like Matt referenced. So yeah, I think we're well positioned to be able to do it in-house.
Mexico is embraced.
Okay,
I'm not necessarily, I guess, lobbying for, the keeping the contract with the current wage study people, but I am going to speak to the job measure system. And the 24 years I've been with the county, done a wage study with that thing twice, and both times it's been a joke. I think both times it was pre-Matt and of course pre-Kevin and of course pre-Matt. The guy that I can't think of his name that built that job mesh system, and our most recent job study with using that back, and I think it was 2019 or 2020. It was such a joke when he interviewed employees, like when he interviewed me and talked about my staff. All we did was talk about hunting and fishing. He never even made any effort to try to consider any of the things that my staff are required to do. And the reason we engaged with a new study is the former HR director realized that the job mesh stuff was a joke. And she convinced the county commission at the time that we need to do something different. So I strongly suggest that you absolutely axe a job measure and find something different. And if this current outfit isn't it, then find something decent. It's horrible. The job mesh stuff is just a joke. Thank you.
okay, Bobby, you got a comment?
Go ahead, Bobby.
I am trying.
Oh.
We can hear you now.
There we go.
Okay, so I like Mike, absolutely agree. The man never, he was here. He talked about, the first time it was about tennis shoes, with one of my staff members. And the second time it was about, international, vehicles that he saw on the road, which happened to be, of course, at our shop. But as far as what he was here for, and I've done the job means also, and it is not good. Just my 2 cents.
Okay. I had a long discussion about duck football with him.
Yeah, I guess I would point out that we're not suggesting bringing the consultant back. The tool itself is, and the system is sound. I've interacted with that consultant a few times on the phone, and that's it. So I didn't have the pleasure of talking about international vehicles or duck hunting, I think Mike made a reference to. So that's not what we're suggesting.
If I could, just for the hat, district attorney office hat. And so I know this is one thing that the elected officials sometimes discuss, and they're talking about the compensation study and hoping to get it going. I think they were for updates for a while, mostly because of employees, right? Employees concerns, not concerns, but hey, where's the status? Because I think the employees see that you negotiate for anything else, and okay, this is the data background. And so as the department head, district attorney's office, my only concern is if they're this far down the process, even if the county has concerns with the information somewhat, it's still a set company that this is their job. This is what they do. And I feel like stepping away from it's a concern, and then putting it in-house, slight concern somewhat of more just the employees' trust of it, right or wrong. Thinking it's, the fox guarding the hen house aspect. Of course, the county reviews aspects, you're not gonna want to raise increases. If there was a recommendation for 8.9% across the board, and that was a concern, well, maybe that's what it is. Maybe the county can't afford it. Fair. But if that's what it is, I think keeping the facts out there, and if we disagree with it, presenting those reasons why we disagree is an important aspect. So that's my only thoughts as a department head with my staff. They'll raise concerns to me. They'll have concerns, and we'll be affected as department heads when it does come up for that salary aspect. So that's the only concern I want to raise is I see they're still working this far on it. Let's finish it off. Disagree with the amounts later on, and it doesn't mean the county still can't do their own part internal, right? I guess that's an aspect too. Let's say we have a professional review from a company that's paid to do this, that has their job. They say, we need this increase. The county reviews theirs and says, no, our data says we should do this. Then the board is able to look at both and make a determination what they think is best. I just feel that reduction of information isn't the best. That's just one thought of.
Just gonna make a comment on the 8.9% number. I don't know if that was a recommended increase. What that specific measurement was the when I looked at salary ranges, the bottom step one or first level or whatever of the salary range, that was the difference between the alignment of the comparables that they did find or the salary ranges that they developed versus what we had in place. The majority are when we looked at the midpoints, which if you recall, when we adopted the most recent changes, the goal of that whole structure and study was focused on alignment of the midpoint of our salary range, not at the first step, not at the second step, or the last step. And it was structured so that there was an acceleration of employee progression to that midpoint level within the first 4 years. And when we looked at the midpoint range, I don't have the number specifically with me. I'm sorry, I didn't have to prepare that, but it wasn't 8.9%. It was within 2 or 3%. But again, looking at the data and the comparables that they used to develop those ranges were from a mixture of current or prior year. And when you're looking at 2 to 3% differences, those could be just cost of living changes. And there was some assumptions made from if data was obtained from 2 or 3 years ago to roll forward based on certain inflation factors that may or may not have actually been when it comes to the entities that provided that information. So again, just the validity of it, of the approach and the data is concerning. So it wasn't necessarily a 8.9 across the board. That was just based on that first data point at the bottom.
Yes, what concerned me is when they look at the comparable that they're gonna use is, and they put the metric of governmental employer in Morrow County with 100+ employees, you got one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, they weren't smart enough to figure that out. And they didn't look at the region, because we don't just compete with, for employees in Morrow County, we compete for employees that are working in Umatilla County, whatever, so.
And case in point, we had to push for them to get Hermiston and Umatilla counties comparables. And literally I called up Hermiston and said, did you receive their survey email? And their city managers like, I checked with HR, I checked with my assistant, we never received it. Here it is, just send me the information. Umatilla County, I had to show them where it was on the website, saying if they aren't answering your survey, here's all their pay scales on the website, just pull it off there. And so those were some of the issues that we're having in with this contractor. To continue this, inside employees would have to be verifying every little piece of information. In that time, we could develop our own.
I guess, so I thought we were really close to being done. So
So
where are we at, really?
they were pulling together information. We're having some final meetings, and suddenly these recommendations came out, and I'm saying, okay, wait, let's look at these. And the recommendations that I have, actually, I do see it 8.9% across the board. Their spreadsheet shows that. And so it gets challenging when it's like, how do you justify that when I'm looking at the mid grades to the markets and we're on par?
So what the question I asked was, is how close are we to having a final draft that we could just look at? If we're close, I'm not asking how good it is.
So I had challenged them to have a final draft for this meeting. I asked them to stop because of as they started going through saying, here we are for the final push, here's where we're looking at, here's our recommendation. I'm like, okay, this is not verifiable, not supportable. And so I asked them to put a break. We could likely have it for April 1st or the April 15th meeting fairly easily. I don't believe we can put any confidence in their final reports based on where the data that they have right now.
I guess for me, if we've basically already paid for it, let's get it. And then let's also do our own internal one if we feel like we look at it and say, no, this isn't gonna work. And then we can use our internal data and justify it based on where we saw the flaws. But at this point, I'd rather we just see it through. That's my thought.
If it's not justified, I have a hard time trusting the figures.
And once we,
you go, okay, we got these, and then are they valid? So what use is it?
and if we accept a report, it becomes a public record and accepted by the county, and then it becomes a benchmark to comparable.
People don't investigate the fine print behind it that this discussion here. So I don't know. That's my thought on it. But just go one way or the other. I mean, what do you think, Jeff?
So I'll make a motion. I move to authorize staff to terminate the contract with MGT and direct staff to evaluate alternative options for completing compensation study effects or efforts.
1 second. Been moved and second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, you got that one? Okay, next one up is the County Port Strategic Investment Program intergovernmental agreement.
All right, so we had a joint work session, I suppose that would be maybe the best way to phrase it, with the port, recently, and I just thought, let's talk about whatever it is that we want to pursue. I think for me, the first thing that we as a board should consider is, what is our best alternative to a negotiated agreement? You know, are we comfortable if we don't get one? And then, you know, if we're comfortable not getting one, I think that informs how far we may go down this route. So I would like to have an agreement, but I'm okay with not having one and just staying as we are. Because, I mean, we don't have any agreements with cities. We don't have any agreements with anybody else that actually could have involvement in a SIP.
Before we move on, could I ask something of the DLC? You know, I saw this on the agenda and I remember one of the last things we said that before we broke up that meeting is we have a consensus, you know? And then and I know we did, and I'm thinking, okay, my memory is not like it used to be. So I wanted to be crystal clear, whoever, if we do go down this route and we appoint somebody to draw up a draft IGA, that we all know what that consensus was and we're all on the same page. So I asked Valerie for the recording. And I went through, and I'm sorry for the late on this because I was out of commission, but I went through it and I listened to it again, made some notes, and I came up with a summary of what I think our consensus is. Not mine, ours, or because if we do move forward, I want us all reading off the same playbook, you know.
Absolutely.
And the reason is, you know, then we're together and it speeds the process up because I know the port has some people wanting to talk SIP. Well, I've heard that. We have some people that might be a potential SIP. So it's time to move this ball forward. And I thought this might just cut out, you know, more time, because whoever is going to sit down and draw up this rough draft to send to the port will know in front of them. They won't have to come back to the board or guess or go back to listen. So if it's okay with you guys, I'd like to pass this summary out and then call it a 5-minute recess. Okay. And you can read it. If you think I'm crazy, forget it. You know, if I got it way off. And Valerie, could you email that to Mike and to Justin? But I didn't get it done till late last night, so sorry. Okay. One there for Tamara too.
You said you emailed it to me this morning?
No. Valerie's getting, I didn't know if you guys want to look at it, so I didn't send it out.
Oh, I thought you sent me a copy.
I did, but I wanted you to hold it and then send it to.
I don't have that email.
Send it again, Dave. But
Huh?
Can you send it again?
Yeah. Hold on.
So Dave, did you put us into official recess?
Recess.
Oh, not yet.
Okay. I'm gonna call a recess, about 5 minutes.
Okay.
That might take me a while.
Magic words, Dave.
Let's
wait for the magic words.
Yeah, the magic words. Okay, so, you know, my thought when I was thinking about this is, finishing up last night is, you know, I guess the option, you know, if you want to mark it up, save it for later, send it back to you. I just feel we can move this ball faster down the field and we can have a little more control over it. And we can put the people who are going to draw this up from our team in a little stronger position. Knowing that we're all reading out the same playbook. Or, you know, I guess like Gus does, just go into it nothing. And then, but to me, that would be pretty tough because then you don't know who's doing what, what's doing who. You know.
Well, I guess from my perspective, if we don't have one, everything comes through the county and then would have to go to the port for approval. That's how it would work. And my general thoughts are I would prefer to have some kind of agreement, but if we were in a scenario where if we negotiate a good SIP agreement, the port is made up by an elected body. And if we make a good agreement and they sink it down, that's going to be toxic to them. I'm not actually sure that they have the desire to do that. So I am comfortable operating in that space if that's where we need to, but where I think we all of us, including the port, I think could easily have consensus is let's get something at least at a bare minimum for port-owned property. I think that's the bare minimum, and absolutely we can do that. That's.
Mike, you got anything you want to add to this? I guess he does.
So nowhere in the legislation does it say that the port has opportunity to or has the right to negotiate a SIP agreement ahead of the county. The county is still in driver's seat for negotiating. All the legislation says is the port has to agree.
Yeah. So just.
But if you don't have their.
And I think it's in the county's best position to be in the driver's seat of all SIP negotiations. Now, that doesn't mean we can't include the port on some, maybe in their properties they may serve or something. But the county needs to be in the driver's seat.
So just Chair, if I could ask for clarification. So Mike, your read of the statute then is saying that the port is just there as an approver of anything that's within their district. But the way I initially read it is they could initiate a SIP just like a city could.
No, maybe I'm mistaken. As Mike, you can fit in too, but just as when I review this also, they remind me more of a city at times where they sign off on things. They have to get a permission from it. And if there is like an example in the city, there's a SIP within the city, then they can negotiate. But I don't know if they negotiate because it's still with the county tax abatement. Like for the cities, when you have it in the city, that's a tax abatement for the city taxes. The county has to sign off on it because it's for the county maybe aspect too. But for the port, I don't think they lead it. They're just assign. At least everything I saw, they sign off on it. As in they have to agree. They can completely disagree with it, but
the ordinance talks about the county cannot enter into unless the city or affected port. So it puts it on the same level as the city. So a city can initiate a SIP agreement with the county's buy-in. I'm assuming then that the port could initiate a SIP agreement as well.
I guess, and maybe I'm not viewing the word initiate the same as my understanding of the SIP is that they apply to the state.
Mm-hmm.
Company XYZ makes application to the state, and then it's up to the county to negotiate that. And if we choose to allow the port at the negotiating table, they are part of the negotiating. Where the port does have veto, really, is they have to sign off on that agreement. So by including them in negotiations, you just help lessen the risk that they veto it and you speed up the process. That's the way I see it.
That's what I was afraid of when this legislation first came out. The reaction to somebody who doesn't like it would be a spoiler.
I guess
and it could be a spoiler on one side or the other. I mean, two on here would be able to spoil it, 8, and 3 on there would be able to spoil it. And if that's your only, if that's your way of showing your displeasure with the agreement, then not only does that slow things down, but then you get back and my thing was when they first started is I didn't want the company sitting on the sideline watching us squabble with the port.
Yeah,
that's not good. Doesn't look good. It takes up time, adds more time. Because some of them said, well, some of the troubles is it takes a long time in Oregon to get approval, and so, on and on, back and forth, send it back to the port, send it back to us. You know, they meet once a month, you know, we meet twice, so. But your stand was when we came out of there is that this was you.
Mhm.
You didn't say you didn't want nothing.
Well, correct.
Yes,
I'm,
okay. Your position was, because I heard you. You didn't say, I don't want any agreement at all.
correct. I
Okay,
said,
so you're changing that, you want
No.
that now.
no, I'm saying I am comfortable with that.
Okay, all right.
But what I,
The default.
yeah,
Okay,
but that I think we could absolutely do at minimum the strategic investment board for port-owned property and for projects that they serve significant utilities to. And then I would want us to still take negotiation lead, but absolutely have the port at the table. And I think outside of that, I think that's really where I see us being.
So my take on from the meeting with them was is they were fairly happy with, you know, them being involved. Again, on the industrial ground, stuff that they're involved in, being their part of negotiating. I heard them say several times that they had no interest in a wind project in South County.
So let's make it official and say when it involves port property or significant utility involvement of the port, we will use the strategic investment board and the county and the port will negotiate together. I think is it fair to say, Dave, that would be?
yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Absolutely. Okay.
That's what I was gelling down and.
So then, you know, for the projects that aren't port related, I think that if, you know, to make it so that we're more likely to get their buy-in and sign off on it, you know, we would have conversations with them that what is it that you are looking for us to include? So that, again, we don't get something and they say, hell no, we're not going to sign that. You need to include this or don't include that, you know, whatever it is. But the county is the lead.
Yeah.
Again, acknowledging that they have to sign off, but if we have the kind of the ground rules of what they would be looking for to
And
sign off on
if they say that there are no ground rules and we just expect you to do whatever you're gonna do, then great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cheers, thanks. Mr. Gorman's got his.
Oh, yeah, Mike?
In response to Matt's question earlier, I'm just gonna read right out of the statute. 285C 609 subsection 4A. The county and if the proposed eligible project will be located within the boundaries of a city or affected port, the city or effective port have entered an agreement with a business firm as described in this subsection. Oregon Business Development Department shall make available in timely manner. Oh, that's training materials. Oh, I'm in the wrong. I'm in the wrong section. Let me find the right section here.
Mike, in terms of who we would want to represent the board, I would like that to be Jeff. I think you did a really good job of
So
remaining calm and being persistent. And I would like you.
So for clarification, you know, as we ended the meeting last time is that we agreed that we'd each have a subcommittee with us, one elected and staff, and I would like to see Matt there. And then the port was gonna have 2 electeds and staff. I assume it would be Lisa. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, for that group. And
Okay.
I'm saying that I would like you.
Okay. Okay. I obviously I can be voluntold.
You can be voluntold.
And I think that that's the route that it would probably end up going.
Okay.
No, I have no problem. Cause I think that's based off of our discussion previously at that last meeting and here today, I think that we're all pretty much on the same page. Would you agree with that, Dave?
I do.
Because again, I want the feature to be representing
And I think you're.
our view.
And I think you're the right person. I told you at the end of that meeting, I said, I want you on there.
Okay, all right. I think we can volunteer him then.
We can all do it.
You can vote against, it doesn't matter.
I saw that handwritten.
So, Yeah, and if Mike would be comfortable, I'd like him there too, and then we'd have 3 and 3.
I would like Mike involved
So,
somewhere. Okay, Mike? You'll be at the table. You've got more knowledge of SIP than anybody in this county.
I do have a question, Chair, just for my understanding. The key elements on the first one, structuring it after the CREZ, which has a very set up thing where we meet together as bodies and you vote as CREZ members there. Is that what we're looking at for the SIP?
I think that was my view is that was kind of the consensus of what the port was proposing, is that in order for the two bodies to come to agreement, especially on the port type projects, we would work basically as the CREZ board, but it'd be strategic investment board.
and yeah,
And I think that a lot of the conversation centered around that the hope is that the any future SIP agreement would pretty closely mirror what an enterprise zone agreement would look like. So, you know, you aren't pitting one against the other, you know, because in the enterprise zone, they have employment requirements and payroll requirements. And why would we not want to include those in a SIP agreement?
So the question I asked that is CREZ is formulated according to state statute and that, so it becomes an entity of its own. And they can vote to approve those agreements. Does it then have to go to the respective boards for?
No, it does. If the CREZ approves a deal, no.
It does go to the county now, okay.
Because this came up one time.
So that's what
Amazon had already started construction
oh, wow.
and one of the entities had not signed off on it.
Yeah, so.
And there was noise that, you see,
And so
it's messy.
That's what I'm wondering is if we have, you know, another board to vote and then we're just doing more or less a symbolic vote, the ratification there. And then it just comes down to, I guess with the committee that we do, we'd figure out how that lead negotiator process goes and hammer that out.
Yeah.
Who takes the lead on SIP agreements and
Oh, and we might have it be different for different projects too.
different setups and that, yeah.
So,
But you still plan to use the IGA to lay all this out, right?
I'm assuming, yeah.
Okay, because we need to get it in writing.
Yes. Oh. I just wanted to.
I think the committee would be the one kind of to bring it back to each.
Yeah, no, that's the plan.
Sign off.
I just want to make sure we're not going to go to the port and say, okay, here's the plan. What do you guys think? Yeah, it's okay. And then move forward. We're gonna have that IGA.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I want.
okay. Well,
The boards change and people forget.
I'm gonna move to have Commissioner Wenholtz and Administrator Jensen and County Assessor Mike Gorman to be our work group for the Port Strategic Investment Program.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Good luck. Good
Go
work.
forth and do good things.
Yes.
Okay. Next up is our data center proposal, Equal Northwest, August.
Yeah, and then Cameron, do you want to come up too? Awesome. So do you want to go ahead and start with the background, Tamara, since this predates me, actually?
Certainly, a while ago, maybe even a year ago, Chair Sykes asked if I was aware of any firms who could do a data-driven analysis of data centers. Because I think constituents talk to elected officials about impacts of data centers, a whole variety of impacts. So I reached out to Eco Northwest, the same firm, by the way, that has conducted the agricultural impact analysis for solar projects. So I've done other work with Eco Northwest. They've also did a economic opportunity analysis through a grant project. And I'm familiar with both their economists and the planners in their firm. So we had a proposal, I think it came out last fall. And really nothing else transpired beyond that point. And then more recently, Commissioner Peterson asked me about this. And I would add that in the regulatory process, we are often asked questions by landowners. And even outside of a formal regulatory meeting, planning commission or whatever, we are asked questions about data centers, and it really is beyond the purview of what we do as land use planners, which is to permit projects based on adopted standards in the code. So there seems to be a lot of public interest in data centers, both positive and some negative as well.
A lot of negative.
I think you get that more because I usually remind folks, I'm just the planner. So we just approve projects based on those standards in effect. Yeah, so fair enough.
So my interest in this is that I would really love for us to have our own set of hard data that we could use to justify our decisions based on the impacts that are happening in Morrow County. And when we have constituents who bring up, you know, concerns about water resources, I want us to have our own data that says, all right, this is how much a data center affects our water usage, and this is what we can do to address that if there's a space in here that we need to address something. And then additionally, I think this would give us a lot of potential leverage when we're negotiating potential tax abatements, or if we need to do planning goal exceptions. The last time we had an Echo Northwest study done, that was pretty much the justification for the $11 million
Mitigation money.
ag mitigation money. And so if this turned into just one of those, that would be worth far more than we would pay to get that data. So
I did, since my name came up here, that was a discussion we had in the parking lot. Yep, and I was still in the formulative phase there, and I didn't take that as a request by you to go do that. I was just asking because I was thinking about a lot of different things, and as I thought about all these things, and we can go into them. I mean, I don't know what, but there's a lot of pieces to this, and I basically. I don't think this is where we should go. And I can tell you why. I think it's out of our lane. We do not have, and when I met with some residents that were concerned about data centers being built near their property, my proposal was to, I think I emailed Hammer and some other people, and the people was, I was impressed with the platform that we did for the solar farms. When you put that on, you had everybody in the room. You had industry, you had people who weren't particularly crazy about it. And I was looking forward to maybe replicate that. I was going to bring it to the board. It was right in my proposal to Tamara in my email, is to sit down, talk about if that's possible, but it would come from the planning area, something we have control over. That's in our lane. Water and we don't tell people how to, if they have a water right, we don't tell them how to how to sell the water. If the company has electricity, we don't go and tell them you can or can't sell your electricity here. That is not within our lane. The planning is, and that's the way I want it to come out. That's where my thinking evolved, is because for one thing, I've seen the water issue devolve into a straw man issue. I mean, it's everywhere, and you can read any kind of report you want. You know, I mean, I was reading stories that after the Rolling Stone article, I don't know if something like that, and they were referring to it as a study done by the Rolling Stone magazine. I mean, that's about as far away from the truth as you can get. This thing was going. I mean, well, anyway, it's not to just dwell it down. Planning is within our lane, and that's where, you know, I think we should approach this is where they're going to be built. I don't think we should plan Morrow County's be a central planning unit for Morrow County's future economy. Just based on us three guys sit here and go, okay, we're gonna plan out Morrow County's future economy, economic future. But talk about where we're gonna, and, okay, that's my thinking.
I guess, I think it absolutely is in our jurisdiction to consider how the decisions that we make and how things happen in Morrow County will affect our future. And this is an excellent example of, I don't want to be dependent on Rolling Stone articles for making decisions on local data. I want our own local data set that gives us information to make really good decisions. And I think this would be an excellent way to do that. And I at least get a lot of concerns about what does this look like in 10 to 20 years from residents all over the county. And I think we ought to take consideration and thought into what those impacts are going to be. And this is one of the ways to do that.
Well, let me ask you this. If this was a food processing plant, would you want to know, or irrigator, do you want to know how much water irrigators use, how much water Capcos use, how much water food processors use?
Well,
do you want to, if you're going to talk about where the water's going in the future, you want to plan out Morrow County's future economy, wouldn't that be part of your curiosity?
A part of, so task 6 water resource impact assessment
But
would
that
be a
doesn't-
comparison.
That doesn't do that here. This is focused on data centers.
Correct, but it would include a comparison to those things. So it would compare to irrigation, and so you would have data on how much water irrigation uses.
So why would you want that information? To decide whether or not to promote irrigators or to promote data centers? I mean, what's the purpose of the county spending $100,000? And the other thing is, I have called around and I've talked to a representative from Amazon, and they are willing to provide a couple of engineers to come to this work session that I was proposing. They're not connected to Amazon, but they do put in a lot of data centers, and they know a lot of these things. I've talked to the Port of Morrow about water. There's a lot of sources out there. Anyway, if you want to know that, and then I'm thinking, well, if that's the criteria we're using I don't think we should be planning Morrow County's economic future. I don't think that's our role, or the three of us doing that. I mean, there's
So
a lot
should
of
nobody do it? Who should do it?
Well, they do that in Russia. They have planned economies. I don't,
So-
not we have planning rules, we have water rights, we have all these rules already in place. And for us to add on, well, we're gonna decide whether or not a business gets built in Morrow County is not where I would go. I don't want that. I don't think the county commission should be doing that. I mean, unless it's environmentally, and it kind of cover under planning. If it comes under planning, that's our lane. But just to go, oh, this uses more water than David Sykes thinks they ought to use, so I'm not gonna allow it. That's so wrong to me. My personal opinion on how much water should be used, what businesses should use it. But if it falls under planning, yes, that's why I would like to see a work session focused on planning and how we can approach this from our lane, which is planning. Not the personal preferences of a county commissioner. Anyway, Jeff, what are you gonna weigh in on?
I just think that there's better things that the county can spend $100,000 on, and the water issue, the port's been the main supplier of water, and the port has industrial water rights. They can use that for whatever business that they bring in. Electricity, doesn't matter wherever they site in the Northwest, it's going to impact the electrical grid the same. they could literally locate across the river. And it can affect the electricity market the exact same, and we get none of the benefits. You know, and I kind of look at, I always come back to, I look at how the county votes, you know. Any partisan office in here is a Republican. You know, 70% if it's a partisan office, 75% vote. I look at that, and the Republican platform is free enterprise, pro-business, less taxes, less government. So why would we want to do anything to go against that?
I guess nothing about this says that we will, but
So when I read the proposal, to me, the way I read it, a lot of it was a outcome, looking for a predetermined outcome, but they going to do a study to support that predetermined outcome. As an example, in the water estates, and I'm not gonna get it exactly right, but it's something to the effect of that. Do we look at, is data center use of water a better use than agricultural use of the water? To me, that's a predetermined outcome.
why is that a predetermined outcome?
Because they already said that they viewed agriculture as a better use of water than data center.
Oh, I thought they said that it's a valuable industry. Agriculture is a valuable industry.
Oh, it is, but there aren't any more agricultural water rights available.
Sure.
So how is the data center affecting that? If anything, the data center is allowing more agricultural to be irrigated, because the water that comes in the data center, 95% of it goes back out the back door, and it's irrigating farm ground that was never irrigated before. So they're using that water twice, and they're using it to irrigate. Now, that industrial water right wouldn't have been being used to irrigate a farm ground.
So if I might, Chair, the value from the planning perspective is to look at all aspects of a development so that the decision makers and policymakers can set good policy. For example, if you compare data center water use to a circle of potatoes, they really are not large consumers of water, but we don't have a single document that we can point to that says that. So we get that information, we get that feedback in a negative way every time we review a data center project.
Well, that's because you're talking to people who are negative against data centers. I mean, what is the purpose to have that, it's just, I don't see the purpose to do that, other than to have the personal opinion of county commissioners decide whether they want data centers or agriculture. That's what it comes down to me. Or planning, I don't, either way. If you're planning, okay, we like this business over here and we're gonna shut them, we're not gonna let them in because we don't like the amount of water they use. Well, wait a minute. What does that have to do with, that's a subjective call.
I'm not sure I'm tracking it, because for me, one thing this could do, for example, is again, in a single document, look at how that affects the county. And for example, you board have approved 2 large rezones to take farm ground out of production. This could set the stage to justify additional, particularly if the study said those are not within, really closely concentrated areas. They're more co-located with energy generation, and which would reduce overall new transmission lines. That would be, I see this as finding a clear path to encouraging data center development in good locations. So I've even heard from the state, for example, they're very concerned about cities expanding their urban growth boundaries for a couple of reasons, because they're focused on a particular industry without looking at other industries. And they're in close proximity to residences, they're expanding UGBs, maybe at the expense of housing. So it's a little more holistic than that.
So I'm gonna take exception with something I heard you say, is that we have not taken EFU ground out for our data center. We have changed zoning. There's not been a net loss of EFU. We've taken EFU and applied it where a space age or another industrial zoning was and swapped zoning from one parcel to another.
It's a semantic thing, but the EFU
there's
land
no-
was rezoned.
But there's no net loss of EFU acres in the county.
Well, that's right. But the space age
it's like this-
industrial is an overlay zone.
Say that we took a decision that took farm ground out isn't a accurate statement. Because there's been no net loss in EFU acres in Morrow County.
But there are folks who are looking to rezone EFU.
That's where you deal with it at that point. You just
So
nailed and that's through planning. And
But we
that's where
could
you
have
look at it.
data that would support what kind of decision we ought to make.
But take that EFU ground out out of our hands, that's gonna be at the state level.
Yeah.
Because the state, even if we
You
approve.
make the decision.
Well,
I'm sorry.
but it's no different than Rome Percheron. We approved it and they said no. So that's when they had to take the zoning from someplace else and apply it there.
RDO, they're sitting on, they sat right in front of us and said, you know, we wouldn't even have, we own lots of industrial land that's being irrigated. We wouldn't even have to be in front of you guys if you don't want. I don't know if you remember that. If we wanted to do that, you know, so.
I can read a room.
But they went through the process.
Thank you, Gus.
They flipped the land around. What?
I move to approve the data center study as proposed by Eco Northwest.
Okay, then motion, do I hear a second? No second, motion dies, lack of second.
Right.
Okay. Okay, next up is correspondence. Valerie, you got any correspondence? Commissioner reports.
I
We'll
can't,
start with the left again.
I don't think I have anything.
I don't think I do.
I guess I will, is that yesterday Dave and I did have a broadband consortium meeting and we're well on the way to holding up the broadband consortium and everything. So there will be a resolution that was passed by the broadband consortium coming before this body to basically ratify and hold it up. We should be on track to have everything dissolved by June 30th.
That's the only thing I report.
You won't be needing this budgeting more money for it, Kevin.
Any lingering financial obligations after June 30th that you see?
Nothing that we foresee. That they're projecting possibly a little bit of money left over, which will be split 50-50 between the county and the board, but they've have a rough estimate of what they think the close-up costs are going to be, the audit and whatever else expenses, and then the money that we're distributing to Windwave and to Columbia Basin Electric for broadband projects that they got going on. RDOF grant for Columbia Basin and a BEAD grant for Windwave, which will be putting fiber in Boardman in the Oregon area.
Okay, the only, I guess, the CREZ. Valerie was good enough to send out a doodle poll there, so we're trying to set up a CREZ meeting. We got some money to give away. And we're going to look at a couple other things, which will get agenda. So if you have an answer to your doodle poll, go ahead and do that. We can get this done. Been trying for 2 months now. I think that's all I got.
Emanate, the Well Springs developer is doing a ground tour tomorrow at 11. Do either of you intend to be there?
I don't.
Okay, I intend to be there, so I'm just asking. So if we have to public notice it, that's all. I'm
When was that?
at 11 a.m. tomorrow.
You know, now that he mentions that, you know, Justin, you gave classes one time on open meeting law.
Correct.
You know, you might clarify that for us is where, you know, where do we have to be, draw the line or be careful on, you know, an official meeting, you know, like this one we just talked about. two of us showed up, you know. I mean, I've heard different.
Oh, usually, so there's always a cautionary aspect, so usually you show up to a meeting, get something else. If it's not discussing items that come before the board, then it's usually not an issue. It's not a problem. The issue we've seen before sometimes is, let's say you go to, gosh, even a city council meeting, and you both show up for the meetings just to say, hey, guys, how's it going? You know, it's, want to just let you know how things are going. Two commissioners are there, and then the city council or some members say, oh, well, since you guys are here, you know, this has been, you know, which is normal, like, this is an issue we have that, you know, we want to bring before the board, that, you know, this is a problem here. And, you know, since you're here, let's talk about it. And which they're able to try to do. But the hard part for a commissioner is to say, oh, if we're talking about something that could be coming before us here, or that you have an action item on, one of us needs to step out. You know, we can't have both a quorum here. If you're getting us information that we want it, that we'll be using for our meeting later on, if it does come before us, that's where I see the issues come up. It's not that you're saying, oh, you can't stay here. Oh, no, this is illegal. At that moment where you guys both showed up, in a public meeting, not the case. It's hard part is it puts you in a bind by saying if they start talking to you about things that are going to come before you, or they believe are asking to, where then you one of you has to have the initiative to say, all right, well, you guys are going to talk about certain things. Commissioner Peterson, you can stay. I'm going to head out, because that ends up being a public meeting if you're trying to bring something to us here. So it's not, I guess, a set facts rule, but it has been one where it has expressed the concern that it causes an issue sometimes where, not that you're trying to do anything, you're not trying to like do a public meeting where it seems like the other governing body or a group of people are saying, oh, awesome, since you're here, we want to talk about this. And if it's just one of you, not a problem. But if it's more than you or a majority of the governing body, that's where the issues come up. And particularly when you have a 3-person body, both are there and talking about a specific item, that's the problem, I'd say.
Okay, in the event we just talked about, that shouldn't be a problem then.
Probably not. I don't know. What's the event again?
It's M&A Solar's ground tour. So, I mean, they're gonna bring up something that very well could come up before the board.
But informational fact finding is an allowed non-public meetings violation. So how do we?
I'd have to look at the individual meeting and say what's being discussed exactly before I would.
Well, wouldn't it come down to if two commissioners went and then stood over there and apart and started talking about it? I mean, isn't that, I mean, just being at
That would definitely.
the fact finding tour, you know, if you don't talk to each other.
Well, I know, but the issue, it's not your own decision at times. The issue comes up on a public meeting law is that by the public meeting, then the public's allowed attendance, right? So it's the idea is the public's aware of what you're being told to, where you make a decision. It's not just for your decision making, but also that information. That's kind of where then the idea is. That's the.
So were you planning on being there, Chair?
No, I just heard it come up before
Yeah.
in different things, and I thought, you know, and it's a gray area. No, I had no intention of being there. I just thought it was a good opportunity to kind of clear it up. What?
It's still clear as mud.
Well, I'll go ahead.
Still clear as mud.
I'll keep up with my report. The Oregon legislator did pass clarifications to those rules this session, and the governor has not yet signed it. But assuming that she does, there will be some clarification about we can attend informational meetings and that not be a public meeting. So, but we'll have to wait for the governor to sign it before that's law. So, okay, all right, that's it for me.
Okay. Next up is a executive session. We got a cheat sheet out here. Warren County Board of Commissioners will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192-6602A, which allows the commission to meet in executive session to consider the employment of a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on or other disclose any of the deliberations or anything said about these subjects during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision may be made in executive session. At the end of the executive session, we will return to open session and welcome the audience back into the room.
And we do have a potential decision, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Wait, want me to sit here? I can move to the other spot or?
No. Okay, we're out of executive session, back into regular session, and we do have a motion.
I move to allow District Attorney Justin Nelson to offer a position to the applicant discussed in executive session as Deputy District Attorney 3, Step 11.
Second.
Then move to second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Okay, I think that's all. So who's all our business? Is anything else to come before the commission now at this time? Not, have done. We're adjourned. We don't have a hearing set, do
We do.
we? One of the calendars I looked at, it wasn't on there. But another one it was, so, but